The offseason is finally over, which means that baseball is officially back. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through every single move that every single team made over the offseason, and we're going to give them a grade. So because the Orioles just made a move about 5 minutes ago, let's talk about them first. So these are all of the additions that the Orioles made over the offseason. So we can see for free agents, they picked up Adam Frazier, Nomar Mazara, Kyle Gibson, who is going to be their opening day starter, which is crazy because I don't think Kyle Gibson is that great. They also picked up Franchy Cordero, but the reason why I bring up Franchy Cordero because he kind of stinks. Although he did go off in spring training, I thought that he was going to get a roster spot. The Orioles, they released Franchy after he hit .413 with 2 home runs in spring training, and the Yankees, they just picked him up. We'll talk about the Yankees later on in the video, but I just want to mention the trades that the Orioles made as well. They picked up Cole Irvin, they picked up Darwinzon Hernandez, who is a pretty crafty lefty, and also Ryan O'Hearn as well as James McCann. The grade that I'm going to give the Baltimore Orioles is a D. Moving over to the National League, let's talk about the Philadelphia Phillies because they had a fantastic A+ offseason. Yes, I'm going to give them an A+. I thought about giving them just an A, but when you factor in Craig Kimbrell, I know that he's kind of washed up, but he still has the skills to be a decent setup guy. They picked up Taijuan Walker, who looked great in the WBC. He was throwing harder than ever. Matt Strahm is a pretty good lefty. You have Trey Turner, obviously one of the biggest, if not the biggest prize of the offseason, not named Aaron Judge or Jacob deGrom. We can see in trades they picked up Gregory Soto, Cody Clemens, my old teammate Eric Ullman. So maybe I'm being a little bit biased because I'm factoring in a former teammate, but yeah, I feel like the Phillies picked up an A+. Now, to be fair, they did lose a lot of guys. You can see that the red means that they left the team. Kyle Gibson, David Robertson, Brad Hand, Noah Syndergaard, Gene Segura, Zach Eflin. So they did lose a good amount of talent, but the players that they picked up in return, yeah, it supersedes that. They get an A+ from me. They also gave extensions to Sir Anthony Dominguez and Jose Alvarado. So across the board, the Phillies were taking dubs. Now we're going to go back to the AL and talk about the Minnesota Twins. They picked up a few pieces like Joey Gallo, Willie Castro. He is a former Tigers player who, when he was a rookie, he bursted onto the scene. I thought that he was going to be crazy. They added Michael Taylor, who is going to give Byron Buxton some off days in center field. Pablo Lopez is a big-time add. Kyle Farmer is a utility guy. They didn't pick up a ton of talent, but the potential for some of these guys is sky high. And then obviously, Carlos Correa signed that 6-year contract. So when you factor everything in, I'm going to give the Twins a B. Actually, you know what? The Twins got Carlos Correa, Joey Gallo, Pablo Lopez, Christian Vasquez, Kyle Farmer, Michael Taylor. I'm going to go ahead and give them a B+. Not quite an A, but a B+ I feel like is pretty fair. The Cubs had one of the better off seasons in all of baseball. They picked up a sneaky power threat in Edwin Rios. He has been going off in spring training. They got Michael Fulmer, who can be devastating out the bullpen. Trey Mancini, Eric Hosmer, I think he stinks, but maybe he can contribute at even an average level. They also picked up Dansby Swanson to a 7-year contract, so he's going to be there for quite some time. Brad Boxberger is pretty good, even though he's 35 years old, but he's coming out the pen. I think that he should be valuable. Jamison Taillon, Cody Bellinger. I mean, the Cubs kind of went off, not gonna lie. And then they picked up Julian Merriweather, who once upon a time was a workhorse out the pen for the Blue Jays. He can be devastating as well. I like what the Cubs did. Now, of course, they lost Wilson Contreras, so that's the only reason why they are not getting a full A for the offseason. But I feel like being nice to the Cubs is a good thing. I'm gonna give them an A-. So just above a B+, what we saw from the Twins. The Cubs, they plugged a lot of holes, and they're gonna be much better, so an A- for me. Not quite an A because they missed out on all these star players. Dansby, he's really good, but he's not a Carlos Correa. He's not a Trey Turner or a Xander Bogaerts. They kind of had to settle a lot. Let's get my team, the Cleveland Guardians, out the way because they did not have the best offseason, even though they did give money to Josh Bell. I do not want to set the precedent that I'm going to allow these cheap teams to kind of skate by with good grades just because they went out and gave money to one person. I'm talking about the Guardians, the Rays. We'll talk about the Rays and Zach Eflin in just a moment. But even though the Guardians did kind of change their narrative, they spent money on Josh Bell, they grabbed Mike Zunino, and they also gave a contract extension to Andres Jimenez, which I am over the moon about. I can't really give them much better than a B-. All right, let's go and talk about a team that had a very interesting offseason. We're talking about the Milwaukee Brewers. So they picked up a lot of different names. We can see that Tyler Naquin and Luke Voit, they both got a minor league contract. I don't know if Tyler Naquin made the opening day roster. Luke Voit did. They also picked up Brian Anderson. He used to be a stud with the Marlins. If we're talking about trades, this is where they really made their biggest amount of headway. So they picked up Owen Miller from the Guardians. I love the William Contreras pickup. Abraham Toro, he's not terrible. Jesse Winker, they picked up a ton of arms from the Angels in that Hunter Renfroe trade. Elvis Peguero, Jansen Junk, Adam Seminaris, he's probably my favorite out of all of the ones that they acquired. And obviously the Brewers are kind of a pitching factory, so all of these guys who were kind of struggling with the Angels, they have the talent to be much better with the Brewers. So for me, everything that we just said, they picked up William Contreras, Jesse Winker, hopefully he has a bounce back season. Abraham Toro, he's been a letdown, but he can be productive at times. I do like what the Brewers did this offseason. It was pretty efficient, but for me, I don't know if I can give them any more than a C+. I know that might sound a little bit harsh because we know the Brewers, they usually don't spend a lot of money, but I wanted them to be a lot better going into 2023, and they just kind of got a little bit better, which I don't think is good enough. The Boston Red Sox, all right, let's go ahead and get the elephant in the room addressed. Obviously, they lost out on Xander Bogaerts. JD Martinez, he left town as well, but they did fill some of those holes with Justin Turner and Masataka Yoshida, and everything that we've seen from Masataka Yoshida so far, both in spring and the WBC, that guy is going to rake. They did pick up Adam Duvall, Nico Goodrum. Once upon a time, he was decent for the Tigers. Again, they added Justin Turner, Kenley Jansen. A lot of their bigger pieces were in the bullpen, aka Chris Martin and Joely Rodriguez. In terms of trades, nothing really happened aside from grabbing Adalberto Mondesi, who I love. I am an Adalberto Mondesi fanboy because of his tools. He can be a 20 home run, 30 stolen base threat, maybe even a 40 to 50 stolen base threat. The fact that they increased the sizes of the bags and he's going to be running wild if he stays healthy and gets on base. I do like what the Boston Red Sox did, and even though they lost out on Xander Bogaerts, but they did kind of make up for it in other areas. They gave Rafael Devers an extension that is 2 thumbs up for me. I'm going to give the Boston Red Sox, what am I going to give them? I'm kind of thinking about it. You know what? I'm going to give the Boston Red Sox a flat B-. So not a B, because they did lose out on Xander Bogaerts and JD Martinez. Both of those guys were fan favorites. They were staples of that franchise, faces of the franchise. But yeah, a B- for me, I feel like that's pretty fair. It's actually better than I thought, because losing Xander and JD, that hurts. Let's go ahead and get the Padres out the way because this is one of the easier grades of the entire video. They picked up Michael Wacha. They picked up Nelson Cruz. Even Adam Engel is going to be a solid outfield replacement every other 4th or 5th day just to give someone some rest. Matt Carpenter, Pedro Severino, he's decent as a backup catcher. Seth Lugo, he has been insane in spring. I mean, there are so many names on this list. Xander Bogaerts got a fat 11-year contract, and we haven't even talked about trades yet. Oh wait, that's because they did not make a single trade this offseason. Good job, Fuzz. They lost a lot of free agents. Jorge Alfaro was pretty good for them. Pierce Johnson, he can be pretty solid as well. Brandon Drury, Josh Bell, Mike Clevenger, Will Myers, Jerkson Profar. A lot of talent that was on the team a year ago is just simply gone, but we know that all the pieces that they picked up, they're going to be fine. I am giving them an A+. You really think I was going to forget about the Yu Darvish extension? Of course not. And also, I'm just messing with you guys. How could I forget about the Manny Machado extension? The Padres, they checked off every single box that they needed to, and usually they get the deal done by making trades. Not this offseason. They spent a lot of money, they invested in their young talent, and I'm super excited about what the Padres are going to do once Fernando Tatis Jr. is back on the squad. They get an A+, easy. I feel like I've been handing out a lot of good grades, so let's talk about a team that, in my opinion, did not have a great offseason. The Kansas City Royals. There's a lot of names that used to be good. Jackie Bradley Jr., Franmil Reyes, Aroldis Chapman. I mean, once upon a time, these guys were actually pretty solid, but I have zero faith in Jordan Lyles, and I hate saying that because he seems like a nice guy, but I don't have a ton of faith in Ryan Yarbrough. Josh Taylor, he is a nice lefty in the bullpen, but aside from that, I mean, the Royals didn't really do much. Yeah, they brought back Zach Greinke. That's all fun and dandy and everything, but the Royals, they're getting a D- from me. I hated their offseason. I don't like it at all. And then kind of the NL version of the Royals, a team that is loaded with young talent that is going to be good in the future, but they didn't have the best offseason, at least. These are my opinions. The Pittsburgh Pirates, did they have a better season than the Royals? Absolutely. Again, they kind of had a similar offseason to the Royals. They brought back a fan favorite. Andrew McCutcheon's coming back to the Pirates. Rich Hill, the 43-year-old phenom, is going to be one of the mainstays in that rotation, but I can tell you guys right now, if you're a Pirates fan, bless you, because Austin Hedges is the worst professional hitter in the history of baseball. I'm not even exaggerating. He stinks. Vince Velasquez, he's all right. Carlos Santana, he rakes lefties. Connor Joe, I did like what I saw from him when he was on the Rockies. G-Man Choi, he's not completely horrific. But do you see how I clicked on extensions? trades, and there is nothing right here. They did not extend Brian Reynolds. If I go to trades, they didn't trade Brian Reynolds. So the fact that they're probably going to lose Brian Reynolds for nothing, I'm kind of baking that into my decision. Maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh. A lot of Pirates fans were upset that I put them in the loser side of the offseason in a video I made a few weeks ago. But again, I don't like the fact that they're just continuing to be cheap and they are shoving it in the faces of their fans. I would give them a C- at best. The Detroit Tigers, I'm sorry, Tigers fans. That's really all I have to say. I apologize. That's it. You guys get an F. Nothing really happened. You are not a better team. I'm sorry. I mean, you did pick up Nick Maton, and I feel like he's going to have a pretty good season for the Tigers. Matt Vierling is kind of the right-handed version of Bradley Zimmer. He has insane tools, which means that he can fly on the bases. He has great range and an arm in center field. The exit velos are through the roof as well. So if he can put everything together, that might be a fun trade. But for right now, I'm sorry. Again, Tigers fans, you're getting an F. The Atlanta Braves had a interesting offseason. I'm going to go ahead and just throw that out there, and then you guys can kind of fill in the blanks on whether or not they're going to get a good grade, a decent grade, or a bad grade. I do love this pick right here. They grabbed Nick Anderson. We know that back when he was with the Rays, he was a buzzsaw. Almost no one could get a base hit off that guy, and he was striking hitters out left and right. Jordan Luplow, he destroys lefties. Kevin Pillar, I mean, he's a fun player to watch as well. But obviously, trades is where they made their bigger splashes. They grabbed Sean Murphy. They also grabbed Lucas Licky from the Yankees. That guy is super valuable and very underrated. A lefty coming out the pen. I know he's 36, but Lucas Licky, Sean Murphy, Briefcase Joe, as they call him, Joe Jimenez. I even think that Colby Allard can be better in the Braves system. For me, the Braves, they didn't have the best offseason. They didn't have the worst offseason. I'm going to give them a C+. So not a B- because I don't know if Sean Murphy is that much better than William Contreras. They still have Travis d'Arnaud, Lucas Licky, he's fine. But because Sean Murphy and William Contreras are kind of two different players, but William is better offensively, Sean is better defensively. I don't know if that balances out per se, but because they didn't get a whole lot better, left field is still a massive hole, I'm going to give them a C+. I feel like that's fair, but if you're a Braves fan and not happy, maybe you were expecting a B-. Okay, fine. The Houston Astros quietly had a decent offseason. I know that they lost their Lord and Savior JV, Justin Verlander, but they picked up Jose Abreu at 36 years old. I still feel like he can be very productive, and I can't believe he's only had 9 years in baseball. He signed a 3-year contract, so he's basically going to be 40 by the time that it's done. They also brought back Michael Brantley and Rafael Montero, and then how can I forget this guy right here, Christian Javier. He signed a 5-year contract. So the Astros, again, very quietly, they crossed off a lot of boxes. They brought in a pretty big free agent, in my opinion, Jose Abreu. They brought back Michael Brantley, so now he's going to be the DH with Yordan in left field until Michael Brantley is healthier to play left field. Maybe at 36 years old, he's just not going to be able to play left field anymore. Montero's nasty. Christian Javier got paid. I like what the Astros did. But because nothing crazy happened, they're only going to get a B from me. I feel like that's fair as well. They did a lot of good things, but also not a lot of crazy things. And you know why they don't have to do that? Because they're the Astros. They are the best team in baseball. It's not really close. We saw what they did in the World Series. It was an absolute kind of beatdown. And yeah, they didn't really have to improve that much. The Arizona Diamondbacks, right off the rip, I want to talk about a contract extension. Corbin Carroll, he can be legit. He's going to be so special with the sprint speed, the sneaky pop, the potential Gold Glove defense. He is going to be an all-star for the next 10 years. He agreed to an 8-year contract, so already right there, I'm happy about that. Good for Diamondbacks fans. They made some big-time trades. I know that they had to lose out on Dalton Varsho, but they picked up Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Gabriel Moreno, and Kyle Lewis, who looked like prime Kyle Lewis in spring training. Take that with a grain of salt. Kyle Lewis hitting well in spring training. Maybe Mariners fans have seen that before, and they know that health is the biggest question when it comes to Kyle Lewis, not talent. But Gabriel Moreno, a former top 10 prospect, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. in that same trade with the Blue Jays. They picked up a guy that I really like, Evan Longoria, who I believe is going to have a bounce-back season that puts him back in the Hall of Fame conversation. But to me, the Diamondbacks, considering everything that I just said, Gabriel Moreno, Evan Longoria, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Kyle Lewis, they gave Corbin Carroll an extension. I love their future. Yeah, they're getting a B- from me. So because we just hinted at the Mariners, let's see how they did over the offseason. So they gave a 1-year contract to AJ Pollock. AJ Pollock is probably going to be a platoon guy with Jared Kelenic. At least that's my opinion, because there's no way that Teoscar is going to sit. J-Rod is a superstar. So Jared Kelenic and AJ Pollock, they could form a super player if you can fuse those together and get the most out of Jared against righties and the most against lefties with AJ Pollock. Again, we talked about that trade for Teoscar Hernandez. Cooper Hummel from the Diamondbacks, he could be pretty good as a backup catcher after Cal Raleigh. He's a switch hitter as well. So not gonna lie, grabbing Colton Wong is pretty solid as well. They also got rid of Adam Frazier and Jesse Winker. In all honesty, when I was on Twitter and I was seeing Mariners fans not happy about someone, it was usually either Adam Frazier or Jesse Winker, so those guys are off the team. It's time to close that chapter, start fresh. So for me, I'm going to give the Mariners a B+. I feel like they did improve a lot. They have the rotation that can compete, and I like the pieces that they picked up, so a B+. That might be a little bit aggressive. A lot of people might say, Fuzzy, it was probably a B-, maybe even a C+ offseason. Sure, Teoscar is fine, but he stinks defensively. We know that AJ Pollock is not the same guy anymore, but they're not asking AJ Pollock to be a full-time player, at least I don't think. Colton Wong, he saw it as well. Yeah, I like my grade. The New York Mets, this is going to take quite some time because they signed everyone, including you and I. I'm pretty sure that we are members of the Mets. I don't know if we're going to make the opening day roster, but they gave a 1-year contract to Tommy Pham. Tim LeCastro, I think he made the opening day squad because Darren Ruff was released. Danny Mendick, a former White Sox player. Omar Narvaez, Kodai Senga, that dude throws 97, 98 with one of the best splitters I've ever seen. David Robertson out the pen is nasty. I feel bad for Jose Quintana, but they picked him up. Verlander, Jacobonis, I just wanted to say that because I love saying his name. They picked up Brooks Raley in a trade. I don't know if Brooks is injured right now. They gave a contract extension to Jeff McNeil, so again, they crossed off pretty much every box imaginable. I love what the Mets did. Uncle Steve is he's an angel, no pun intended, because we're about to talk about the Angels next. By the way, because they're injured, it kind of escaped my mind, but they also got Edwin Diaz a contract extension, and they also brought back Brandon Nimmo. Did I even give the Mets a grade? If I didn't, they're getting an A+ as well. So 2 teams in the NL East, the Phillies and the Mets, are getting an A+ from me. The Angels just barely missed out on an A+. We'll talk about why I don't think they're going to get an A+ in just a second, but I love Matt Moore. He's at 10-year service time, so I feel like the older he gets, he's actually getting better and better, so he's aging like fine wine. Brandon Drury, he's going to be someone that really improves the Angels lineup. He provides depth. I also love the fact that they traded for Hunter Renfroe and Gio Urshela. Both of those guys are going to contribute in the batter's box. They're going to contribute defensively. Hunter Renfroe has been one of the best defensive right fielders in baseball for quite some time. Gio, he is a stud over there at third base, which is going to be huge for a guy like Anthony Rendon, who's going to need some days off every so often. A guy, Zach Neto, is raking in spring training, so maybe he's going to be the shortstop. I didn't even talk about the fact that they picked up Carlos Estevez, who is going to be nasty out of the bullpen. Tyler Anderson, Brandon Drury, Carlos Estevez, a few other pieces. So for me, I feel like the Angels, they deserve an A-. I'm not going to give them an A because they didn't sign any superstar or anything like that. Then again, maybe they don't need any more superstars. Maybe they just need solid role players. All right, let's talk about the San Francisco Giants. They did pick up a guy I like a lot, Luke Jackson. He formerly was with the Braves. He gets destroyed by the Dodgers, which kind of stinks because he's now in the same division as the Dodgers. But they also picked up other bullpen arms like Taylor Rogers. If we're talking about hitters, I mean, how can you not love Michael Conforto and his story? He is coming back strong. He looks absolutely insane in spring training. They also picked up a guy like Mitch Haniger, so most of their damage was done via the free agency market. They picked up Sean Manaea, Ross Stripling. A lot of these pieces are not big names. I know that for sure, but they are pieces that are going to help out. The Giants are better. They tried to get Aaron Judge, aka Arson Judge. They tried to get, they had Carlos Correa. He failed that physical. The Twins, they felt more comfortable after even Carlos Correa failed the physical with the Mets. So again, they tried their best to bring in a superstar face of the franchise, but because they didn't grab a face of the franchise, I don't know what the identity is for the Giants. They're still going to get a B- from me. They also brought back Jock Peterson. So maybe bringing back Jock Peterson pushes their grade up to a B, but I feel like a B- is pretty fair. The Toronto Blue Jays, they brought in a few big names in my opinion. Brandon Belt, when he was healthy over the last few years, honestly, if you have not seen Brandon Belt's baseball reference page, go look because he was a monster over the last few years. He's not going to be playing full time, at least I don't think. Kevin Kiermaier, fine. He's a nice replacement in center field. He's definitely better than Bradley Zimmer. Chris Bassett, a 3-year contract. That is a big time move. But for me, this is where the Jays really just kind of won the offseason, at least for me. Zach Thompson, they got him from the Pirates. He sucked with the Pirates, but the Blue Jays, I feel like he'll be a little bit better. Dalton Varsho, one of my favorite players in baseball. He is a Gold Glove, pretty much a platinum glover in the outfield who also can catch 200 innings behind the dish if you need him to. Eric Swanson is nasty out the pen. Adam Mako, however you say, I'm sorry if I botched it. He's going to be a decent player going forward. I don't know if he's going to make the opening day squad, but Eric Swanson, Dalton Varsho, Chris Bassett, as we talked about, these are big players. Brandon Bell, yeah, I'm going to give the Blue Jays an A. They also avoided arbitration with Bo Bichette, which is good news, even though it wasn't a full-blown contract extension. Just ask Brewer fans, about arbitration and Corbin Burns. Yeah, it can go wrong very fast. The Rockies, I'm just gonna keep it simple. I feel bad for Rockies fans. We're gonna talk about the Rockies and the A's back to back because they're probably gonna be getting the same grade. I know that the Rockies grabbed Jerkson Profar. It was a one-year deal. They're gonna flip him for prospects at the deadline. I mean, they did grab Pierce Johnson. I think he came from the Padres. They're still owned by a guy named Dick Montfort. So because of that, yeah, the Rockies, they are getting an F- from me. Same with the Oakland Athletics, even though they picked up guys like Shintaro Fujinami. He's on a one-year contract. He actually looks pretty good in spring training. Trevor May, one of the good guys in baseball. He's probably going to be their closer who also gets shipped at the deadline. Even he knows that. Aledmus Diaz, I mean, really, they did a lot of their grinding in the trade market. I'll show you in a second. JJ Bleday, a former top prospect. He could be pretty good. I love Daryl Hernandez. He is probably my favorite prospect in baseball right now. I feel like his future is unlimited. Very underrated in my opinion. Esteury Ruiz, he beat out Christian Pache. So because of that, Pache is going to get DFA'd, and that just adds to the madness that is the Oakland Athletics. You trade for a top prospect, you lose Matt Olson in the process, then you DFA him. I don't like that. Kyle Muller, I think he might be the opening day starter for the A's. AJ Puck, they lost him to the Marlins. We'll talk about them next, but yeah, they also lost out Sean Murphy. Yeah, the A's, they're just gutting their franchise and saving as much money as possible before moving to Vegas. That's my prediction. They get an F-. We're going to talk about the two Florida teams back-to-back, the Marlins and then the Rays, and then obviously we'll talk about the Cardinals and the Yankees. Make sure you guys stay for that, but I do like what the Marlins did. AJ Puck, he is disgusting out the pen, 97 to 98 miles an hour from the left side. I love Jacob Amaya as well. Obviously, we can't skip over Luis Ariz. In terms of free agents, they gave some money to Yuli Gurriel. I think they just released Jose Iglesias, so don't mind that right there. Johnny Cueto, he got some money. He looked all right in the WBC. Gene Segura, he's also going to be on the squad. So again, all of the pieces that we talked about, Luis Ariz, Johnny Cueto, Gene Segura, Yuli Gurriel, AJ Puck, Jacob Amaya. I like a lot of those pieces, so I'm not going to give them a C+. Maybe I should. I think I'm just going to be nice to them and give them a B-. The Tampa Bay Rays, the only thing that we really have to talk about is this man right here, Zach Eflin. He got a 3-year contract. It was like $50 million, which is actually the biggest contract in Tampa Bay Rays history. I don't even know if they had any contract extensions. No, Brendan McKay was outrighted to the minors. They didn't make any trades. Yeah, the Rays, just like the Guardians, they made one single move pretty much. They picked up Zach Eflin, which is still a nice move, but because I do not want to set the precedent of giving excuses to these small market teams who are owned by billionaires, they can still spend money. They're choosing not to. I'm going to give the Rays a C. Now, if you're a Rays fan, offseason grades normally don't matter anyways because you can pluck guys like Yandy Diaz or Harold Ramirez and turn them into superstars. You can trade Willy Adames and think, oh my God, who's Drew Rasmussen? And he turns into a Cy Young caliber pitcher. So the offseason, it's not the biggest deal in the world for Rays fans. We know that. I want to give the Cardinals a good grade because they picked up Wilson Contreras. That lineup, the fact that Jordan Walker is now going to be in it, hopefully he is the Jordan Walker that we all expect because 1 through 9, it might be the best lineup in baseball. But aside from that, their pitching still stinks. So they're still going to get a C+, but I can't give them anything more than that. Their pitching, it could be good with Adam Wainwright, the 57-year-old phenom. I mean, Jack Flaherty's coming back from injury. Jordan Montgomery, he was a good pickup from the Yankees. They have some other players like Miles Michaelis. I don't know about their pitching. It's going to be tough, especially when you go into the playoffs. They're going to have to out-hit everyone. So yeah, it's just not good enough in my opinion. A C+ for St. Louis. I feel like Cardinals fans will agree as well. The New York Yankees, man, they had a pretty good offseason in my opinion. Carlos Rodon, one of the most fearsome, one of the most intimidating and powerful pitchers I've seen in quite some time. They gave him a fat 6-year contract. Good for him. Aaron Judge and Anthony Rizzo, they were both brought back. So again, right there, that is a huge W. And for me, the reason why the Yankees are now getting an A for the offseason, he's not someone that you can see on this website right here. Anthony Volpe is going to change life in New York. He is wearing number 11. I just feel like that is a match made in heaven. The spirit of Brett Gardner is going to channel inside of him. He's going to go off for a 2020 season. The Yankees, they get an A from me. Nationals fans probably won't be happy with their grade, but also I feel like, what are you expecting from me? I'm going to give them a C+ because they did improve a little bit. Corey Dickerson, Dominic Smith, I've seen some people place bets on him to lead the NL in home runs. I don't know where they're seeing that talent from, but Trevor Williams, a very very solid starter. He's coming over from the Mets. So yeah, they did pick up Jeimer Candelario, who once upon a time was a doubles machine for the Tigers. So yeah, they're better, but not much in my opinion. They're getting a C+. Maybe I give them a B- just to be nice because they grabbed Keibert Ruiz on a crazy 8-year deal worth basically nothing. So maybe you give them the benefit of the doubt. Then again, benefit of the doubt and the Nationals don't go hand in hand with those albatross contracts of Steven Strasburg and Patrick Corbin. The Chicago White Sox, they brought back Elvis Andrus, so that's good for them. They signed Andrew Benintendi and Mike Clevenger. Those were kind of their two big fishes of the offseason. I wasn't sure if Mike Clevenger was going to be able to play, but according to everything that I've read online, and everything online is true, he's going to be playing all of 2023. Andrew Benintendi is solid. And also, just like the Yankees, one name that is not going to be on this website, Oscar Colas. I thought for a second, are they going to grab a right fielder in free agency? Are they going to trade for one? No, they trust in Oscar Colas. I can see why that kid rakes. So it started off as the White Sox getting a C- because I thought Mike Clevenger was going to be in trouble, but with Gregory Santos calling up Oscar Colas, I feel like they actually did a decent job at getting better. They get a B-, and also I feel like getting rid of Tony La Russa full time, that's going to help them as well. So a B- for the White Sox. Maybe a C+, but I'm feeling nice. B-. So the Reds are not going to get a great grade. I'll just spoil it right now. They're getting a C+, even though they added guys like Luke Weaver, Will Myers, Luke Maley, Will Benson, a bunch of other smaller names like Kevin Newman and Nick Solak. I'm going to give them a ton of props because their farm system is loaded. Ellie De La Cruz, Noel V. Marte, Christian Encarnacion Strand. They have other pieces like Matt McClain. I'm telling you guys right now, if the Reds can keep on developing Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green, if they call up their young guns in the next few years and they fuse them together with a veteran like Joey Votto, Jonathan India, who won Rookie of the Year, the Reds could be really good really soon. But for 2023's sake, the offseason was meh, a C+. I'll give him that. Actually, nah, I can't give him that. A C-. I'm sorry. My camera completely imploded when I talked about the Dodgers, but I gave them a C+. As you guys can see, they didn't really do a lot aside from lose Trey Turner. And then the final team of today's video, the Texas Rangers. I love this Robbie Grossman pickup because he is going to dismantle any lefties that he faces. I don't know if they made the 40-man roster, but Ian Kennedy and Danny Duffy are two kind of outlier wild cards that you should keep your eye on if you are a Rangers fan. Clint Frazier, that is not his name anymore. If you guys did not know, his name is Jackson Frazier. But obviously we have to talk about the big boys and Nathan Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney, Jacob deGrom. They brought back Martin Perez on a 1-year contract. So the fact that they're going to have a Jacob deGrom, Martin Perez, Nathan Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney rotation, maybe you have Spencer Howard as the 5th guy, or Dane Dunning. So Fuzzy, what's the grade for the Rangers? I'm going to give them an A- right now. I love all the pickups, but also they're going to call up Josh Young. They have a guy, Ezekiel Duran, who is raking in spring training, but for right now, an A-. I'm comfortable with that because offensively and in the bullpen, they still have some holes. But that does it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed because I had a great time making the script for this video, getting all the pieces in place, and then making the video. Again, hope that you guys enjoyed. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you in the next one.